Today, we're ranking the worst and best League of Legends advice as recommended by members of my Discord community. I'm Bach, a professional LoL coach with international experience at the highest levels of competitive play, and in my time, I've seen a ton of advice. Some of it's pretty good, but a lot of it is either misused, misunderstood, or even actively harming your chance of improving if you follow it. So before we begin, I need to introduce the categories we'll be putting each piece of advice in. Starting off in good advice. This is for recommendations that you can follow and see positive results in 9 out of 10 situations. Nothing is perfect after all. Almost. Oh, let's pretend that I can draw. Almost. This advice is headed in the right direction, but is either way too generalized or missing some important context that stops it from being truly good. Meh. It's like, I guess there could be something useful here, but the energy you have to put into caring about it is not worth the return on your investment. And finally, Reddit tier. Pretty self-explanatory. This is something you'd read on a Reddit thread made by someone who watched 13 seconds of an LS video 7 years ago and then misunderstood his core point. Have some advice you've heard and want to know if it's OP or garbage? Let me know in a comment down below and I'll include the best ones in the next video. So let's hop to it with number 1. Get 10 CS a minute. I could almost guarantee this advice originally came from a good place. If you watch footage of players from like the olden days of League, it's kind of crazy to see the lack of commonplace game concepts in their gameplay from even people as high as Platinum back then. But thankfully, we as a player base have progressed to the point where we have bigger fish to fry. And the old adage of just focus on 10 CS a minute is so out of date, it can basically be considered Reddit tier advice. This doesn't mean minions aren't important, but man, is this advice thrown around way too much. Number 2, don't buy control wards in solo queue. 2 back-to-back stinkers here. Now, this is more of a contentious one, but I promise I have a good reason here. The issue with this advice is it's overcorrecting a problem to the detriment of the player listening. The opposite of this advice would be something like, every time you back, buy 2 control wards. And that, for the record, would also go in this Reddit tier advice category. The idea of buying control wards is you want to treat them like they're a temporary outpost of control you have on the map, and you want to use them for key moments like team fights, objectives, or holding map highways. But most players just drop them in the first bush they see when they have no one near to help defend them. When used sparingly and properly, control wards are extremely important resources, and you should buy them. You have to 1v9 in low elo if you want to climb. This one's going in almost tier. It's almost a banger. Unfortunately, it's not completely true. This is a mindset you should have when playing because it holds you accountable as the only metric you have control over, your own performance. It's just not practical to expect to actually 1v9 every game. You're not prime carrier, you're not prime faker. Give it your best effort, but take some losses when they inevitably come, and then just keep moving. The classic, never gank a losing lane. Another piece of advice that's almost there, but not quite. So never gank a losing lane is good because it makes sense logically, right? If your laner is losing, then they already lose their 1v1. If you join and the enemy jungler joins, then you'll probably also lose the 2v2. So instead of doing like the double or nothing burger flip gank, it's generally good advice to play for yourself or gank another lane that is even/ahead. But you can still look to gank a losing lane if you can guarantee the numbers advantage fight, and that fed enemy champion isn't unlike an Olaf or a Darius. Draft matters in solo queue. Lol. It's going in meh tier. The amount of games I see where the enemy will pick a full AD comp into like Malphite or Rammus or full AP into like Galio or Mundo, and they will still win the game is like actually laughable. The reason this is in meh tier and not Reddit tier is that draft only really matters in solo queue when you get to higher levels like Masters Plus, or if you're a one trick and your champion is banned. Then draft definitely matters a little bit and you should look to dodge. Reset 1 minute before objective spawn. Now hear me out here. It's a good rule of thumb, but the more important aspect of this advice is not the time before the objectives, it's the waves before the objectives. So a better version of this advice would be make sure you are resetting in time to be opening the map with a minion wave before an objective. And if you want to know what opening the map is or any other terms I'm using in this video, check out my recent video on LoL Pro terminology. Link in the description. Macro doesn't matter in solo queue, only mechanics. This is immediately in Reddit tier, and I'd love seeing some comments about this. So this is a massive cope that one tricks or solo queue fraud coaches use to sell you their one-on-one coaching. Link in my bio. Obviously, you need some level of mechanical skill, right? But the reality is the nuance of player skill cannot be purely defined by one specific thing. Like, what are mechanics? Camera control, mouse click proximity, ability usage, skill shot dodging, last hitting, pressing E on Yasuo. A player can hit Diamond or even Masters with a wide range of proficiency in mechanics, game knowledge, macro, and more, so it's really reductive to just focus on one thing and ignore everything else. Just copy what the pros are doing. This one's going in almost tier. They're pros for a reason, and it's because they're doing something right, or even if they're not 100% correct, they're infinitely more correct than what the average solo queue player is doing. This is a good way to reduce mental load on yourself when trying to climb or improve. Taking resources in your mind away from thinking about builds, runes, pathing, and focusing on other aspects of the game is a great way to speed up your improvement. Just remember that it's more of a temporary fix because you will need to eventually understand why they are doing these choices if you want to get to the highest ranks, which is what's kind of keeping it from being in this top tier of good advice. Using a third-party app like Professor, Mobalytics, Blitz.gg, etc. This one's going in meh tier, and you might be saying, Bach, why? And for the same reason as the previous piece of advice, this is potentially useful, and I hear it getting a lot of hate, and probably more than it deserves, but I can at least empathize with that hate a little bit. So third-party apps like these can be very good for getting stats and information about your strengths and weaknesses, but a lot of players fall victim to just using it as a way to see if other players on their team are off-roll or on a loss streak so they can flame them or type out the game's over before they've even played. Get your mind on like what is really important here, your own improvement, which is why this is in meh tier. Play in 3 blocks to avoid loss streaks. Good advice, and here we are, the first piece of good advice on this tier list. The 3 block best of 3 system for solo queue is just the best way to play the game if your goal is to improve. If you're interested in how to best utilize the system in your games or even what it is, I make tons of other videos on my channel to improve both your mental and your gameplay so you can stop wasting time in solo queue and start climbing and enjoying the game more. And of course, last secret piece of advice, like, comment, and subscribe, and join my coaching Discord, a learning community of people looking to improve and reach their goals. Bye.